So I received your application to become part of the Salamanders.
So will I get some of that totally awesome power armor you guys always wear?
Well, the boys and I were hoping you would wear less clothes, actually.
Alright, tonight I got a great topic for discussion. I read something that's so stupid that it literally, when I was reading it, I could feel myself getting dumber. My nose started bleeding and my eyes started twitching, and I thought I was going to have an aneurysm. You ever read something that's just so stupid that you figure it's got to be satire? It's got to be. They're trolling us, right? And then you find out, no, these guys are serious. Like, or maybe the original author was trolling. Maybe that was the origins of it. But then a movement caught on, kind of like Flat Earth. That started out as a joke, but then it caught on, and then people started taking it seriously. Or what was it, Gavin McInnes and the Proud Boys, and he started out, it was kind of a funny thing, and it took off and became a movement. Like, things start out as unintentional and then become serious. So I thought I was one of those, maybe. But no, these people are dead serious. But what am I doing here in the background? I finally got my display case, and it's pretty kick-ass. It's modular. I took the old wall hanging down because I was running out of room. And this display case, it's pretty cool. As you can see, it goes all the way up to the top of the ceiling. And I attached it to the wall, and I can actually build it out. It has extra sections that I can attach, just like Legos almost. They just kind of snap together. And it's going to extend over the doorway, so it'll literally go up the wall and then over the kids' doors, and it's just kind of cool, and it's all transparent. So the only thing is like the figurines that are kind of high off the ground, it is a little harder to see, so I'm going to have to rearrange it so maybe the Gundams are up high, like the bigger, larger models. But either way, it's pretty cool, man. We got the display case in my hallway to the bedroom, so where the kids' rooms are, and when you walk in, you can kind of see it. My wife thought it didn't really kind of go with the decor in the living room, and she thought, well, I don't really want it out there. And I was like, well, where the heck am I going to put it where everyone could see it and it would be appropriate? And that's what I came up with. This, I have my hand wrapped. I did a number on my arm. My nerve is pinched, and I cannot move my hand past this point. And I can barely pick up a pen. I could pick a pen up, but I have no fine motor skills. So I thought by wrapping my hand, I'd be able to paint, and I did. So this video, I'm painting my Outriders, and I got some heavy weapon, a little heavy weapons platoon here, and I got some other figurines I was working on. You'll see in the video, and I'll tell you what, I painted for 2 hours, and I imagine, like, so when your nerves aren't working, just lifting your hand up feels like you're lifting 100 pounds. So I kept getting cramps in my hand, and I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? And I thought about it. I was like, I promised you guys I would do some drawing or some more figurine painting, and I just can't. But then I thought, well, no, I can do like priming and stuff. So I got some priming done. I got some of the bulk work out of the way. I got a bunch of sketches that I have lined up for you guys, and I'm going to try drawing right-handed. I'm ambidextrous. I'm what's called cross-dominant, so I'm going to see what it looks like and just see if it's passable or not. I don't know. Otherwise, it's just going to be straight-up lifting videos, and I know, like, my nerds out there, they want to see other stuff, so I'm working on it. Now, on to tonight's topic. You ever read something so stupid that your nose just starts bleeding, your eye twitches, and you feel like you're having an aneurysm, and you think that they're trolling? It's like, this has got to be trolling. It has to be. And then you read another article, and you're like, oh, these people are serious. And I think, like, you even think, like, maybe the original post is trolling, and maybe some serious people latched onto it, because that's kind of how wacky this world is now. Everything's ideological, so, people read something. Like Flat Earth is a good example. Flat Earth, I don't know if you guys know this, but it kind of started out as a joke. Reddit. God love you. And, it got all the loonies attached to it, and what do you know? A movement spurned, and next thing you know, there are legitimate Flat Earthers out there. Yeah, and please argue with me in my comment section about Flat Earth. Please. How do you know the Earth is round? I'm in artillery in the Marine Corps. We'll just leave it at that. I'll let you think about that for a minute. Something about calculating for rotation of the Earth when we're doing our fire solutions. I don't know. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But I digress. That's a totally different subject. But what I'm saying is that a lot of stuff starts out as like people trolling or throwing grenades out there, hoping to create outrage, and then what? Next thing you know, there's like a legitimate movement behind it. Well, what are we talking about? Our favorite faction, the Orcs. God, I love the Orcs. The Orcs in Warhammer 40k are comically evil. They're basically an unstoppable civilization-ending force that can't be bargained with, they can't be reasoned with, and the bigger they get, the dumber, well, not dumber, actually the smarter they get. The more able they get. They don't know why they're even more able. It's like, you think about like a mechanic that can build a mech out of garbage, and it works, but he couldn't tell you the first thing about how to fix it. And if you tried to fix it, it's just going to break because you don't have, I don't know. It's awesome. The lore is great. It's been great. And it's just, people that play Orcs are laid back people. Essentially, they're 50-50. So you don't even have to like think. Like you could literally like set up a game where you just grab 120 boys and just fight against whoever, and you have a 50-50 chance of winning. And it's laid back, you know what I mean? You know, it's like, could you say it's talentless, mindless play? No, I mean, you can be as tactical as you want to be with them. Or you could just play to have fun. You know, I find that Orc players don't care if they win or lose. They just enjoy playing. Good people, love it. Now, Orcs in history. Now we go back and, as far as I can tell, is from what I have been researching, the earliest I can find representation of Orcs is in Eastern mythology, like Japan. You get the pig men with tusks, and they kind of represent an unstoppable horde, like the evil that can't be reasoned with. And then, of course, J.R.R. Tolkien is largely responsible for creating the Orcs. Morgoth, the Dark Lord himself, couldn't create life. So what he did instead was he perverted that which was beautiful, the Eldari, and he basically perverted them and changed them and warped them and changed them into Orcs. And, you know, that was largely his army. And just like the 40k Orcs, they couldn't be reasoned with. They don't reproduce. Like they can only be created. Like they can't breed amongst themselves and continue their own. They can't propagate their own species. They have to be made from something else. A lot of like leftists, they don't make anything of their own. They just pervert that which already exists. You know what I mean? Now in like games like Dungeons and Dragons or Warcraft, World of Warcraft, the Orcs are more. They have like the barbarians. They have a basic civilization structure, like a societal structure, a code of honor, if you will. Very tribal. The women and men Orcs reproduce and have little baby Orcs, and that makes sense because if you're role playing, you want to play as an Orc. It would make sense for you to want to be able to have maybe a family or get married or whatever. But in Warhammer, it's just armies against armies. So there's like, you're just looking at a force that's just there to smash and have a good time. Think about a bunch of beer drinking, cigar smoking dudes with dakas just shooting bullets all over the place, not even knowing how to reload their own weapons. And when the weapon runs out, they'll just chuck it at you and then beat you over the head with whatever they got laying around. And it's usually just a, rudimentary piece of steel that's been sharpened. They're big, they're strong, and the more they win, the bigger they get, essentially. They're made from spores, so when you kill one of them, they basically, and they seed the earth, and they grow like mushrooms, and that's why you have like these orc uprisings after you think you've eradicated every last one of them. Many years later, you have another horde coming over the hill, and you got to keep fighting these bastards, and it makes sense because it's a war-fighting game, and every army needs to have some sort of, a reason behind it for you to want to kill them and for them to want to kill you, and the Orcs have always just been the comically evil force for the sake of being evil. That's it. There's nothing more to it, nothing less. So when I read something stupid, like Orcs are racist, yeah, I read that. And then you think, well, that guy's trolling, right? And so that's an idea that's been tossed around for quite some time now. Now, it's usually by woke leftists that don't understand, by them saying that, they don't realize that they themselves are being racist for that idea to even pop into their head. Well, orcs, they remind me of oppressed people. They remind me of people of color. They remind me of black people. That actually, I did not make that up. I read that in an article. And then we're all like, and they're calling us racist for because we're oppressing those armies. We're killing them indiscriminately. And it's like we were taking out our white oppression, the Astartes, because obviously Astartes are all white, right? Yeah, there's no other people of color that's represented by those factions. And they're all male. There's no women, right? There's no sisters of battle. There's no sisters of silence. It's just all white men that are being evil against people of color. That's what I was reading. Okay, I'm not making this stuff up, people. I read this stuff. And, a lot of that got dispelled and mocked and laughed at. And, it goes away after a while. But everything's cyclical and it comes back around. Well, I present you this. What am I looking at here, people? Okay, so I get the sentiment of what the author or the artist is trying to do, and might I add, very nice artwork. I'm very impressed. I get what they're trying to do, but okay, I mean, just look at the picture. Like, how do I? Does it remind you of any culture? And then, so they threw that out there, and immediately the leftists started saying that we are the ones that are creating the outrage by questioning it. Like, think about that. That's gaslighting. That is the definition of gaslighting. For you to create or say something or do something that is with the intention of targeting someone, and then when that person that you've targeted says something back to you, you go, aha, gotcha, see? We told you guys are racist. And it's like, what are we doing here? And then, so the discussion, I dug deeper, and God damn it, I went on Reddit. Why? And I'm just going down all these threads, and it's just going back and forth. Like, basically, it's like, why do you care? Why do you want to change the lore? Or are you exclusive and all that? The same argument with the female custodies and the female space marines. And it's just like, why can't you just leave it alone? It's a good story, and we enjoy it, and there's no need for you to insert your personal politics in it. And then they're all saying, well, why can't you guys just go away? You guys are the old group, and we want to get rid of you, and once you guys are gone, we can do with whatever we want with it. What is that going to look like? Is it even a war game at that point? I don't understand why. Okay, you have like this stupid game. And basically, it's a game that's a very dark universe where some very dark things happen, and every single faction is basically evil, and there are good characters, and there's good stories revolving around those characters, but the factions themselves are all pretty much patently evil, and everybody has an excuse to just... If you think about it logically, it's so that any given force can fight any other given force on game day. You show up with your army, and you can fight any other army, and there is a lore established reason for you to do so. So we could be like I don't know, the Dark Angels versus the Salamanders, and there's probably a story around there where those two fought. Or, obviously, okay, whatever, pick a faction. And sometimes they team up. Yeah, and there's even been instances where individual orcs have teamed up with like freebooters, and they, whatever. I mean, there's all sorts of stories out there. But as a whole, the faction's pretty unambiguous. It's just like these guys are born and bred to kill. They have a good time doing it, and they're not happy unless they're fighting. Think about that. Think about the psychology where you're not happy unless you're fighting, and that includes getting maimed, chopped, you get your head chopped off, and it gets transplanted onto another orc, and you magically survive, and now you're like, they're great. They're awesome. The orcs are awesome. They're the most fun. Their technology is laughable. It's just like everything about them is comical, and it's just like this. It's a good time. It's like you got rocket boys that basically have bombs strapped on their back, and they're flying these rockets, and like where are you going to land it? Like, how are you going to survive that? They haven't even thought that through. they're basically kamikaze pilots, but it's just hilarious. It's a good time. I love the Orcs, and I just wish these people would just keep their politics out of it. I just don't understand it. But what's my opinion on the Orcs, generally speaking? Well, here's what I can say. When I grew up, I read Tolkien. Next to the Bible, that was the second book in the house. You know what I mean? And, I grew up on that. And I always did kind of feel bad because after Morgoth and what's-his-name were vanquished, and Middle-earth basically had a bunch of orcs left over, and they were being mopped up by the elves and the humans. I always kind of felt bad because there's these guys, it's like, I always imagined as a kid, like, well, is it possible that without the influence of the Dark Lord, could one of them switch sides and become a good guy? And I always had in my head canon that, yeah, it's possible. Why not? Like you find a lone orc and he gives up and surrenders and he becomes your buddy and you're hanging out with him and they get to know each other and you find out that you both suck, so you become friends. Like, why not? It's the underdog story. But J.R.R. Tolkien was pretty explicit when he said, no, they were not redeemable and they were wiped out, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Okay, well, he wrote the universe, so now that would be like me, now that he's gone and the family's sold some of the rights away, it'd be like me insisting that we go back and rewrite his story to accommodate my headcanon, which would be the lovely story of the orc that was redeemed, and then making it canon. No, I could write that story and it could be fan fiction, and I think that's awesome. There's tons of fan fiction out there, and I like reading fan fiction, but I just hate it when these people are insistent that they have to make changes to what we love and that we have to just suck it up without saying anything, and if we do say something, we're bigots. Do you not understand how racist you are to even have that thought to begin with? I have a family member. She is, for all intents and purposes, a communist. And we're going to say we got in an argument one day over voting IDs. I said, I don't think it's unreasonable for people to have identification in order to vote. I don't think it's unreasonable for you to have to prove who you are in order to vote. They said that's racist. Why? Why is that racist? I think, okay, explain to me how that's racist. They went on to tell me that, well, people of color are, they're not privileged like we are, and they live in poorer neighborhoods, and some of them don't have access to services like you and I do. So are you telling me you don't think that people of color can get IDs? Like, you don't think they can go down to the DMV and get identification? Well, they might not know how the system works. And I'm like, wait. So have you been outside of your upper class neighborhood that you lived in? And hey, when I left home, I was homeless. I joined the Marines. I saw the world. I lived on my own. They also joined the service, but they got married, and they never had to struggle, and they'd probably never been outside of a gated community, let alone talk to some of these people that they claim to champion. So they shouldn't be the moral arbiters of people they have never met or interacted with and can only make assumptions about. So as a joke, I've had, I work construction, and there's all of us. There's black, white, yellow, green, pink, blue. We're all there. And I just ask people, I'm like, hey, you ever found any difficulty with you or your family members getting a identification? And they look at me and they're like, are you retarded? Why would you ask me that? I go, well, I'm just taking a survey. They're like, why? And I go, well, funny you should ask. I've got this family member, and I tell them the story, and they're like, are they brain damaged? Like, why would you think we can't get identification? Like, that's so stupid. Like, have you ever, okay, if you want to be racist and you want to, stereotype people and say, well, those are the people that you always see hanging out at welfare and food stamps, even though when I went down there, I only saw white people. But I digress. I understand that was the neighborhood I was in. You can't get any of those services without ID. So that's usually the first thing people do. And guess what? Those same services will help you acquire an ID if you don't have one. Like, I have not met anybody who can't get an ID. Even the most mentally disabled or handicapped people have identifications. Like, there's literally no one I have met on this planet, including the dumbest person I've ever met who lived under my roof with me for 3 years, still had all the. As a matter of fact, that was the first thing they got, because that was access to the money they lived off of. They lived off of the state, and they wanted to get them free phones and all the free goodies that the state gave them. Now they acted like they couldn't fill out a job application, and they acted like they couldn't do, like they didn't know how to wipe their ass or shower themselves. But when it came to getting food stamps, they were online like a computer wizard doing coding, like they were in the Matrix, you know what I mean? And I was like, that's interesting. You kind of ratted on yourself there. You act very, very dumb, but when it comes to making sure that you get what you need, you seem very, very smart. But again, that's a topic for a different day. All I'm saying is, you people that believe you're the moral arbiters of everybody, and you tell us, like what causes we should stand for or stand against, and you come up with these, you think you speak for the dispossessed and the people that just, can't figure life out for themselves, and you're there to champion their causes. You are some of the most racist people I've ever met. To even think that orcs are racist, you came up with that idea and put it out on the internet, and the rest of us, and you put it on us. Oh man, I can't make this stuff up. So in other media, if we're going to be talking about like Warhammer or World of Warcraft or J.R.R. Tolkien or anything else that's related to that, when I was going through these articles, I kept running across all these Disney articles, and there's this guy O'Keefe, and he does these exposés, and they've been catfishing these executives and our high-level people in the Disney organization. These are lonely dudes going out on dates with women, and these women are basically getting them to expose company secrets, and then they're putting them on the internet, like Gotcha Disney. And I don't know, I feel bad for these guys, because the one guy, the next day when he went up to meet with another gal, like O'Keefe shows up with a microphone and saying, "Why are you racist?" And he's in his face, he's like, "Oh my God." And then he realized, like, oh, you didn't really like want to go out with me, you were just trying to expose me. And then the guy got fired, and you're just like, wow. I mean, I guess it's kind of cool that they're showing these companies for what they really are, but we've all kind of known that already, so I'm not sure what that does. I just thought it was kind of dirty the way they were doing these guys. It's like, okay, one of my core principles, if you will, is don't intentionally do harm to people. So I might disagree with you politically, right? But I'm not going to go out of my way to try to, like, even if I don't like you, I'm not going to try to hurt your ability to make money, or I'm not going to, I'm not going to do anything that's going to intentionally make your life harder than it already is, just because we don't see eye to eye on stuff. I mean, I never understood that. I never understood like the level of emotional investment that these revolutionary types have, where they're like willing to. I mean, you go on Reddit, right? We're talking like Warhammer here again, and in some of these posts, it devolves into like them wishing people like us would get like lined up against the wall and shot. Like when the revolution comes through and we get a chance to get rid of these people, let's just shoot them all in the back of the head. It's like, whoa, mass grave. Okay, that's cool. Like, because I don't want you to assign a what? Like, I don't know, man. This whole like don't go on Reddit. That's the moral of the story. Just stay off of Reddit. But I don't know. It's free content, It's interesting to talk about. It's fun. We poke fun at these ideas. They make fun of us back. We get in arguments in the comments section, and more content's created. And if I can present to you something that's entertaining, we all have a good laugh, and you keep watching my videos. But at the end of the day, like, it ain't that serious. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not losing sleep over this stuff. I promise you. I can be passionate about something, like you're taking something of mine that I grew up with. This is my childhood we're talking about here. And, you're crapping all over it and then telling me I'm wrong because I want to try to preserve something. I guess that's the fundamental definition of a conservative is people that try to preserve the past. I don't know what it's turned into, because when you say conservative now, the first thing that comes to mind is like, well, what they say about us. We'll leave it at that. But it's mostly people that fear change a little bit. They're a little bit like, hey, let's slow the roll on the change stuff. Like we're the ones that are saying AI could probably like rise up and murder us all. Where a progressive might say, no, AI is going to revolutionize the world and it's going to change everything, and it's going to usher in the utopia because it'll get rid of all the menial tasks and we'll just all sit around and paint, finger paints and have sex like rabbits. It's going to be great. Like, we're just saying, like, oh, look, we're just saying, like, we're not saying don't progress things. We're just saying, like, maybe put some thought into it, and if it wasn't for us, we wouldn't have history. History would be gone. I mean, it's basically they want to overwrite history and rewrite history, especially to marry the narrative, because the narrative pushes progress, right? So obviously you need to change history in order to push that narrative. And we're saying, no, let's preserve the past. Let's, keep history the way it is. And that includes our mythology and our stories. When they look back, a million years from now, if they manage to find anything left of us, they're going to laugh. First of all, they're going to say, what a bunch of weirdos. Like, holy crap, have you seen this crap over here, Bob? He's going to be digging it up, and they're going to look at our skeletons, and they're going to go, yeah, that one's female and that one's male. It doesn't matter what we do to ourselves. We can kit bash ourselves all we want, but when there's nothing left but bones, they'll be able to tell you exactly how many chromosomes you had. It doesn't matter what you think. But no, that aside, it's like we're obliterating our own mythology. If you look at mythology, it's like stories that were handed down, and these archetypes have survived over the years, and they've been retold and rewritten, and they perpetuate themselves. And now, in our day and age, we're doing what we can. We're basically saying all that's bad, and we need to get rid of it, and it's problematic. Everything's cyclical. Things eventually correct themselves, and this will too will correct itself. It's like we might be at the end of an epic where it all comes to an end, and then it'll restart itself again. And then when it does, they're going to get to a point where they're going to want to look back and do a little archaeology on us, and they're just going to be scratching their heads going, what the hell were these people thinking? And it's funny because most of us walk around with the sum of all the knowledge that's ever existed in the palm of our hands, and we can look up anything we want, and we can research anything we want, and we can find facts on anything we want. And a lot of us are pushing ideologies that were responsible for, millions and multi-millions of deaths, and in our lifetimes. You know what I mean? We're not even talking 100 years ago. Like there's people on this planet that are still living that lived through this stuff. So we don't even have to go that far back in history to have living witnesses that can attest to it. And we still can't, look at the evidence that's presented to us and make reasonable decisions. And the reason why is because they're not teaching this stuff. They are not. They're selling everybody on the idea of the utopia. I was wondering, like, what makes somebody that's pushing for something like, communism or socialism or any other form of collectivism, what would make a person want to do that? And I think what it is, it's like the emotional sentiment is caring for other people, caring for people that can't care for themselves. And they've been sold on this idea that capitalism's evil. It's just selfish. It's just people that are just trying to get rich at the expense of others. And under the system we live in, which is being billed as capitalism, I could see why that's true. The United States, I hate to say it, is more socialist than a socialist country. Like, we have a lot of social net, safety nets out there that socialist and communist countries do not have, and we're lucky that we can provide for people like that. So in many ways, we are socialism. We actually meet the definition of fascism. If you look at Mussolini's Encyclopedia Italiana, his definition of fascism, the United States meets that pretty well. It's the merging of like corporate and state. So our government decides who we do trade with and who we do business with. Amazon. What does Amazon and Walmart do? They basically bury all the small businesses and any innovation that comes. Like, if I was to invent something, like a hydrogen engine, or, that runs on water, which was done, by the way, that actually happened. One of these larger corporations would either try to buy it or they would bury it, like Tucker, his cars. So in a lot of ways, it's like cronyism. They decide, they dictate. It might seem like a free market. Like, you can just go to the store and buy whatever you want, right? You can go to Walmart and buy whatever TV you want. Go to Walmart. I challenge you to go to Walmart tomorrow and tell me how many brands of televisions are on the shelves. And then go to Target and tell me how many different brands of televisions are on the shelf. Now go to Best Buy. I'm serious. I am dead 100% serious. Go to Best Buy and write down every single brand of TV that you can buy on that shelf. Okay? Now, how many brands is that? This is a challenge. Now, go online and look up how many companies manufacture televisions. Okay? Why don't we have access? Like, why can't we buy those off the shelf? Now, the savvy amongst us know, yes, you can go online and there's ways to procure these other brands. Sure. But at what expense? You know what I mean? It's not easy to do. It's not readily available for the average person who's not savvy enough to go online and scour the denizens of the internet for obscure products that they can buy that are in competition. Like the knee sleeves that I bought for this last competition I went in, the Helix. Sure, that's a small company and they make small batches of product, but where do they sell their product? So they would have to essentially sell their souls to go on Amazon and get on that line, and there's a lot of hoops they would have to jump through, which would make it untenable for a lot of small businesses to do that. And then what tends to happen is, once those companies get to a certain point where they're either not profitable or they need to expand, or they get bought up and they just get absorbed by other brands. So there's a very select amount of companies that we do business with, and a lot of that is dictated by our government with our regulations and our tariffs and the way our favorite trading system is set up with China and our other favorite trading nations. And there's the pipeline that's regulated and protected, a lot of it by our own military, our own state apparatus. We're overseas and everyone's like, why are we policing the world? And we're policing the world for free trade. Exactly, 100%. I've said in other videos, but it's just like, it's controlled. It's very controlled. So you have the illusion of capitalism. So what happens? Like, look at this pandemic, for example. Who made all the money when they put us on lockdown and told you had to get the jab? You have to get it. And they were really pushing it, man. They were pushing it. I almost had to get it at my company, or they wouldn't let me come back to work. I was going to be forced to make a hard decision. But if you think about it, whether they had your best intentions in mind or not, they still made Pfizer the most profitable drug company that's ever existed on the face of this planet. You know what I mean? Like, so you don't think that there's some shenanigans or motivations going on there? But that's just one example. It's just like everything is super controlled and it's all tied together. And whether or not a politician or a specific single person could have good intentions and could be trying to look out for the greater good, if you will, but underneath him is this giant apparatus he has to navigate, and whether or not he can do any good, that's another question. What would it look like if it was actually free market? If you and I could just trade and do business with each other, and you could buy and sell from whoever you wanted for whatever prices you wanted. You could hire somebody and they could agree to work for you for whatever price you negotiate. There is no minimum wage. There is no maximum wage. We're just all living free, trading free. True free market. That's never You've never seen it. You don't even know what it looks like. That's the system that, that's the ideals we want to shoot for. That's the capitalism we believe in. The communism, it's just like, I mean, just looking back at the history of it, well, that wasn't real communism. Well, we tried it enough times where it's like, you should say, like, hey, maybe we should go a different direction. Or instead of like, worst case scenario, we fail again and murder another 50 million people. Oh, well, sometimes you got to break a few eggs, right? Just the thought of that happening again should make you like want to maybe try something different. Well, holy crap, I did it again. I ranted. And these videos keep getting longer and longer. But seems like you guys are watching them. So until you tell me otherwise, I'm going to keep making them because I enjoy this. I love this stuff. Well, what could be better? I'm painting figurines or I'm weight training and I have an interactive group that does it with me. I love you guys. I will see you on the battlefield. Tomorrow's the 4th of July. I'm going to be wearing my Don Fry shorts and red, white, and blue, the whole family. We're going to look ridiculous, and it's going to be epic. See you on the battlefield.